All right, so we are live. Okay, so I'm going to also share my screen. I have, Kate and Mona, you are familiar with this too. I have a set of instructions with screenshots available. I have that set up for both the graduate program review, and I've set up something for the PhD application review as well. So I'll send out that information to you once it's kind of finalized. But once you get into your application, get in there, I've set up a test account for myself, so this will be exactly what you're going to see within the application itself. So when you're on your dashboard, you will have opportunities to access an application in a number of different ways. Once an assignment has been created for you, you will be able to select review assignments here and click on a name of an applicant, and that will take you directly into the application. Or if you prefer, you can use the search assignments function here on the left-hand side of the screen. You would click search assignments. The window is going to pop up and you would select your name from the reviewer list here. And so I have a test account. It's called Alexandra Huxley Test Reviewer. So I'll go ahead and click on that. And it's going to populate the applications that I have in my queue for review. And so you don't have to go in order of the list. Typically it's pulled in alphabetical order, but you can look at applicants at any time and in any order that you wish. So you would just click on the applicant name and it's going to populate their actual application information. And I've set this up by work group. So there will be a separate work group for each foci area. And you'll have an opportunity to view applicants for those specific areas. So you won't be looking at all PhD applicants. You'll be able to see contact information, their email address, phone number, their current address, their program designation. I mean, this is very similar to what you would see in the regular graduate review. You'll also have access to application financials. This is if an applicant is receiving a fee waiver. That doesn't really mean anything for your review process. You just can see that information. The scoring model I'm working on building out, so there won't be anything in there just yet. And then as you go through each section of the application, there's little tabs, so you'll be able to access documents, full PDF application, all transcripts, any applicant uploaded documents such as course catalog descriptions, if they provide that, their CV, personal statement, and a writing sample. And then this last tab here is called admissions uploaded documents. So if any additional pieces of information come into our office, I have the ability to upload documents there. Sometimes there will be an additional letter of recommendation. Sometimes applicants participate in a study abroad program or have foreign transcripts. That's where you'll be able to find those types of documents. And then next is the evaluation section. This is where you'll find the recommendations. You will be able to see the evaluation status as completed, requested, sometimes accepted. So when it is fully completed, you will have the ability to access a PDF document to review the recommendations that have been submitted on behalf of an applicant. The next section is personal information. If you're interested in biographic information, race and ethnicity, citizenship, parent guardian information, and other information in terms of language proficiency, this is where they also enter information about their military status, if you would like to see that information. You also have access to NursingCAS custom questions. This is where you can see if they're a first-gen student, their marital status, if you're interested in that. And then these other questions are specific to the NursingCAS route application. Questions surrounding COVID, European Union data protection, things like that. And then this next section is custom questions. And these are questions that we build out for our processing purposes. And so this is where you would see which focal area they have selected. And so this particular applicant is selected biobehavioral sciences. Let's see. And then custom fields. This area is completed as part of my initial admissions evaluation. So I'm providing information that will all be composed in one specific area. So you can see all of it at one time as opposed to going through each section. So you'll see the program designation, their current state of residence, where they've completed their BS in nursing, the BS in nursing degree GPA, MS in nursing institution, and their MS in nursing GPA if they've completed a Master of Science in Nursing. You'll also see any advanced practice certificate information, again, their focal area, nursing program accreditation, and then some additional information regarding custom questions that we're asking as part of our review process. If an applicant provides information for standardized tests, that information would be available here in the standardized tests section. And you can also view that information within the full PDF application if you prefer to see everything all at once. The education section identifies the applicant's academic history. We don't necessarily require information about high school attendance, but sometimes applicants will include the information in there. And then NursingCAS does review the education history and make sure that we have transcripts. I apologize for that. Official transcripts to match each institution that the applicant has listed that they've attended. They do verify the degrees that have been awarded and the degree dates and the major. And then moving on, we have the prerequisite GPA. And so this is where you'll be able to see that the applicant has fulfilled our prerequisite requirements, which is a graduate level statistics course and a graduate level nursing theory course. And so as part of my review process, I'm going in and just reviewing course descriptions to ensure that the applicant has in fact met those prerequisite requirements. And so you can see that the applicant has made their selections here. And then once I do my review, there will be a little checkbox here with my name next to it that identifies that I have actually reviewed that and approved that that course will in fact fulfill the requirement. And then the electronic transcript. For the graduate program and PhD program, we do not require that the applicants complete what we call a course by course entry, where they're entering every single course from every single institution they've ever attended. However, the applicants may be applying to other programs that utilize NursingCAS, and they may require that as part of their admissions process. So sometimes you'll see this electronic transcripts complete here. But we only require prerequisites. So typically you would see 2 to 4 courses listed here. And then you also have access to the experiences section, which provides information about their employment history, health-related experience, and any volunteer or community enrichment engagement that they might have. And this information in terms of health-related experience is typically provided in the CV, so you have 2 places to look for that information. The applicant also has the ability to enter any awards or honors in the achievement section, so if there was anything listed here, you would be able to see that. And then the next section is licenses and certifications, and so this is where the applicant will identify their certification, and then they also have the ability to upload a document in their document section, which you can see above. And then same with license information. And then they also upload a copy of their current RN license. And part of my initial review process is to confirm that they do in fact have an active unencumbered RN license, if applicable. Socioeconomic indicators, these are questions that are asked that are part of the root application in NursingCAS. Most of the time as part of my review, I'm not looking at this information, but if you are interested in seeing it, this is where you would find that information. And then the very last section is any notes that I have included, or maybe China has included as part of her communication with an applicant. And then my notes are specific to the initial admissions review process. So once you've kind of looked through all of those sections and have an idea of kind of where the applicant stands, once you go through the interview process, you have this assignment here, and I apologize, I have to scroll up quite a bit. You have this assignment section here, and Mona and Kate, you'll be familiar with the assignment piece because it's similar to what we do for the graduate program. This particular assignment is specific to the interview rating. And so in the past, China shared with me the sheet that is typically used after an application has gone through the process of review and an applicant is invited to interview, you would use that rating sheet. So what I've done here is I've built out those items into the assignment. And so it's exactly the same as what you would find on that sheet. Here you have the ability to enter a score and add in any comments. And then at the end, prior to completing the assignment, you can add in any overall comments, but instead of having to do a manual calculation to score, the system will automatically do that for you. And so once you go through this process and enter all the information, you would just click complete assignment, the window would close and you are done. And then there would be a date in here that identifies when you have actually completed that assignment. And I mean, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. But you do have, like I said, you have the ability to view all of the different sections within an application, as well as documents. And if you would like, I can set up the ability to add any additional notes in the bottom section, or if you prefer to just add information about the applicant in the comment section, that's completely fine as well. Do you have any questions?
I have a question about the GPA. I actually have this question even when I review master's students. When it's very helpful, it looks like there's a section here where, Sandra, you go through and put that information in. Mm-hmm. Is the bachelor's in nursing, how does it work if somebody has a bachelor's in something else first and then goes back and does gets their bachelor's in nursing after?
And it's at the same institution?
No, it's usually different institutions.
Sure. So we're only looking at the BS in nursing degree GPA, not any other degree GPAs at this point. However, if I need to add in any additional custom fields here, if they have a Bachelor of Arts degree from CU Boulder, I can always add in an additional section here if you would like to see that information. And then it would have an additional line for like BA degree GPA.
So I think that might be helpful for some of our caring science applicants. Particularly, we have, for instance, Dr. Rachel Johnson, who graduated from our program as a social worker, was able to matriculate into it, given that this is the focal area that allows for interdisciplinary studies, or someone with a graduate degree outside of nursing to still be able to, matriculate into the program. And so I think we may need to add an additional field just to view what that potential, previous degree may be outside of nursing. And typically it's at the master's level. So it certainly could be at the undergraduate level as well, but typically they are a nurse and then, may have a different graduate degree. But it may not be the case all the time. They could just be social workers altogether and are, kind of matriculating in, but due to their relationship, makes sense to be able to allow them to study with us.
Okay, sure. Yeah, that's quick and easy to add in. And then I'll just make a note then when I'm doing that initial admissions review to make sure to look at that to be able to enter that information in there. And of course, if they don't have another degree, that information will be blank, or I can put in, not applicable, so that you're not expecting to see any additional information there. Cool, thank you, Kate.
in both of you guys' experience, because you've both reviewed applicants for interviews in previous, for previous cycles, do you feel that you have all of the tools and all of the information necessary in this review process to be prepared for the interviews? So, I mean, interview would happen very similarly as they have in the past, where they will, be organized at a time that works for the potential faculty in that foci. And then, again, you'll be able to have already reviewed or have access to review the applicant file, before that interview would take place. What are you guys thinking? You feel like you'd be prepared with what you were presented with today and would feel comfortable utilizing the system to prepare for the interview?
I do.
Do you feel like you might need—
I do too.
Okay. Do you think you might need any other documentation to help prepare for the interview? Because ideally, we wouldn't provide anything outside of what's here electronically for you to access, remote from wherever you are, you can get, to the applicant data. So in preparation for the interviews, at times we would, have kind of that summary sheet at the very beginning of the application. I don't, that's not something that would be prepared that summarizes, student's name, all of the degrees that they've earned, cumulative GPA, what their foci is, who their recommenders are. All that is actually going to be for you to find within this information here. Maybe a checklist of sorts. I'm just trying to brainstorm out loud to make sure everyone feels comfortable, before the review process will start.
It seems like since the custom fields are set up with those things, that it should be pretty straightforward. Is this in the master's one? Because I feel like I spend a lot of time like going back and forth and trying to find things.
It is.
Okay, well, see, there we go. It's one way that
sometimes the sections are, you open up the application and the sections are just set up like this. Not everything is open. I mean, I open up everything when I'm looking at an application, whether I need to see that information or not. And of course, then I have to scroll down quite a bit, but that helps me to kind of get through and know where I'm at when I'm doing my review. But yes, that information is there. And like I said, because the custom fields are pretty easy to build out, if there's any additional information that you would prefer to have in this section, that can be provided. Like China, you mentioned that there's a cum GPA on that summary sheet. I've not used that summary sheet for a very long time, but I'm happy to take a look at it. And if there's any additional information that could be added here in this custom field section, I'm happy to add that.
That's perfect, Sandra. I was like, that's exactly where I was going with that too. Just for us to, compare offline. So that sounds great.
Can we change the order of the custom fields?
Absolutely.
So one suggestion I would make is if the PhD research foci, like their if they're biobehavioral, or having that either at the top or closer would be helpful for me.
Absolutely.
It's helpful for other people. Like essentially what was on the checklist, like the things that we need, like if those are up at the top, like,
yes,
I guess, I mean, state of residence is good to know, but it's not really gonna, well, it shouldn't be affecting our decisions at all. So like those things we might want a little bit lower.
Sure.
If possible.
Yeah. And then just as a reminder, I'm not sure if Jackie had mentioned this at at the meeting last week when we kind of just alluded to having these trainings. But she will actually, following all of the interviews taking place, and you all as faculty entering your interview ratings and your notes there for students, as Sandra mentioned, it will tally a ranking basically of all of the students automatically with that information. And so she will be able to pull a report, or we can pull a report and bring that to that committee vote meeting that typically, then has the presentation of faculty, with applicants. So it'll really easily rank information so that can be there and provided, but also, like I said, provide some insight, for Jackie as well. She's ultimately, I suppose, the decision maker with whose, admission stands, although it is typically by vote, that the majority of that, that vote is typically what's rendered in decisions. So she's going to enter the decisions that you see down there at the bottom of the screen there. So you don't have to worry about entering anything like that in that information. Sandra, that tool does it list like a recommended admission there for them to enter, or just the rating scores, right?
Just the rating sheet, but I can add in another assignment.
I don't know.
Or even in this bottom section in the overall comments, it can be added here, recommend for admission.
I think just so that they can weigh in, but I mean, ultimately, like I said, the score is what's going to do it, so either way. What do you all think, as from your perspective where you're in? Would you want to have a place to add recommend admission, or do not recommend admission there?
For me as a reviewer in the FNP, that I put in the overall comments, recommend or do not recommend interview, or I like to get very precise about like possibly recommend or highly, or but if it's the score, if it's Jackie, that's then going to go through, it may be easier for her to see an actual checkbox rather than read through people's comments. So I would say whatever is easiest for her, but I am fine. It's at least already in my practice that I put it in the comments, but I'd be fine with the checkbox if that's easier for others.
Okay. That sounds good.
Yeah. And we can always do some testing. Like I can build out an assignment and we can do some testing. And if you feel that, and I'm not calling you out, Kate, by any means, you can be our guinea pig to do some testing in the system, but I can easily build out that assignment and we can take a look at it. And if it feels like it's too much, we can just deactivate it.
Would you do me a favor, Sandra? I think we mentioned that this student was a biobehavioral science applicant for the fall. Will you, I'm hoping that it's appropriate to kind of view a couple of the documents there, but can we look at her essay? I just want to see what's there. This is how this is maybe a secondary measure for us to determine who the application is assigned to. So we do have work groups certainly created, but we'll also kind of double check the student's personal statement where they need to where they need to explain, what faculty research they feel like they may align with, or any faculty who they've spoken with. Again, they should also call out in this particular essay what they are interested in researching. So will you scroll down just a little? Let's see. I'm wondering if I see any faculty names. That's really what I'm looking for. I see depression, anxiety, opioid. So this may be someone in psych. Will you go ahead and scroll down a little more, Sandra? Hmm. Okay, I don't see any names. I'm definitely seeing, a sense of what her research interest is. Okay.
Page 2.
Mhm.
Let's see. Okay.
Okay. So I'm thinking, and especially since, there's some time before this application is due, I could certainly reach out to her and just, this would have to be, since the application is already submitted, some type of a manual ad.
Mhm.
But, this would go to all BBS, excuse me, faculty to review her application materials. That being said, and knowing, Kate, that you are part of the BBS group, how would you feel about, reviewing an applicant's files that may not align directly with your research interests or area, but again, is within your focal area work group, may not be interviewing her, you would still provide the review, you could still provide some comments, but what's listed there for the review, again, really pertains to interview. You'll review, you have the ability to review this applicant. As we know, you all discussed at the vote meeting, you want to know certain things about the applicant. So you have access to be able to see this information about the applicant prior to that meeting. Would you also feel like you would want to put some notes in prior to an interview taking place with other faculty who maybe she will name, or someone else who may have a similar research interest? Does that make sense what I'm asking?
Sort of. So, well, one of my questions actually was because, I'm sort of in biobehavioral, but I also have students in healthcare systems. I do work in both.
Yep.
So one of my questions was going to be,
Where am I?
Yeah, and because I've had 2 students potential applicants reach out to me, and I think they're in different. I think somebody's was thinking biobehavioral, other was healthcare systems, maybe. So I definitely, like, if somebody names me, for sure would want to look at it, but also anybody in topical area of maternal health, sexual and reproductive health, those kind of things, would want to review.
Right. So that's why, again, I think I will certainly have to go through, and typically we had Ananda, or we had a Nate, or we had a Sai in this role who would read through the essay and really cipher out, what faculty and what makes sense. I think I assisted with that quite a bit, quite heavy-handedly in past cycles as well. And so I'm happy to review it. And that's why I said to bring up that essay, really look at what's there, and to see if the student has called it out as we've instructed them to. That's truly what the personal statement has, 3 designated areas that it asked them to address. We can see, she's an early submit, which I think is awesome. However, as a courtesy, I think I'll reach back out to her and just let her know, to reread the personal essay requirements there, that personal statement requirement, but also that it may help us with determining a match. So I obviously would go through and say, okay, based on the focal area interest here, these faculties seem to make sense. And if it is outside of that area, we will certainly assign it to faculty that makes sense to review. Where in that case, it would make sense for you guys to add notes if you are reviewing, you know what I mean? And this is prior to the interview. So also then, if you are interviewing, to make sure that you're able to, submit those notes and that scores appropriately. But there's, like I said, there's kind of it's a 2-4 here, that you could be reviewing it and not need to make notes, but it may make sense in other areas for you to certainly make notes, and you will also be interviewing.
Was the first question whether, like, say I am assigned to biobehavioral for this purpose, which is totally fine. so I would be fine. I would be more than happy to look at them and put in my recommendation, even if it's something like this particular person that I know nothing about.
Right.
Or don't do mental health. So is that part of the question? Because the answer would be yes.
It is.
I can still evaluate someone's potential for success in the program, even if they're not in my area, as long as I still have the opportunity to do the other people that either name me or in my area, because they could be potential people that I would be working with.
Absolutely.
Okay.
You hit it right on the nose.
Then
and
yes to your question.
Right now, I don't know that we have a place for those review notes to go. We certainly have a place for the interview notes to go, but we want to build in a place for where those review notes will go for faculty who are either reviewing in preparation for an interview that they will have, or just in, reviewing as a part of that work group faculty or that FOSI faculty. Does that make, hopefully that's pretty clear.
So, Sandra, you mentioned the scoring sheet for the application itself isn't in yet because that has to be built, right?
Correct.
So there will be a comment section there. Will there be a comment section there like there is with the interview? Because then we could do something similar.
We can create one. We can create one, and that's specific for just the application review. And if there's specific things that you're looking for when you're doing your review, those can be built in. I just need to know what those components would be. Or it could just be kind of a blanket assignment that has a section for comments and any notes.
I think the latter would be best, an open area, but we can certainly ask Jackie, as well. So Kate, if you have some thoughts about that, certainly maybe jot them down and we can send them that direction to determine what we'll add as a part of the, the notes area for review.
Because I have interviewed the applicants, but I have not, because I am in clinic on Mondays and can't attend the meetings most of the time. I have not reviewed a lot of the applications. I just remember doing it in the meet, like people would review them and then discuss it in the meeting. Is there not a score sheet for whether someone gets an interview after the application, or does everybody get interviewed? I should know this. I'm sorry.
Everyone typically gets an interview. So if they have a complete application with us, we typically will grant them to move forward. We've never been in the predicament where we've had a plethora of applicants where we didn't need to review the ones that were, verified and ready to move on. So the hope, though, is that instead of, us reviewing literally minutes before or day before the interview is to take place, that, all of this information is in the system and is in there, almost immediately when the student is verified. And so, is assigned to the work group, is assigned to the faculty. So again, if it's that review period, it should be in you all's practice to go in and check your assignments so that you can be, ready prior to the interviews taking place between, as we know, February and March.
Okay, that makes sense. I'm glad that I had a moment of like, are we
Yeah.
not interviewing people with no objective reason or like no objective scoring. We're just choosing who gets interviewed or not. And so I'm very glad to hear that that's not.
No, everybody
Okay.
gets interviewed who, again, has met the, admissions requirements, who has a verified application. And again, most of the time, all of our applicants are pretty serious. So either they've not, completed it, or they've gone all the way. And again, maybe missing something like these detailed specifics within the materials. So that then is, something to notate during the review, right? Didn't notice an alignment with faculty that was in the, personal statement. Something of that nature. And hi Rachel.
Hi, Rachel.
Sorry, I had to join late.
That's okay. We've recorded this session, and we mentioned early on that we will have 2 other sessions as well that will hold. Again, we know not everybody can join, and we hope to have a varied enough time, and then again this recording with some supplement information to go out to reference to.
So what I can tell is that this is a website that we're going to use to review all of our applications versus the hodgepodge of being sent different pieces and not being sure about what who got. And yeah, so this is like more of a systematic way to be able to do our reviews and prepare for interviews.
You hit the nail right on the head. And this system has existed for years. We've just made it more difficult for ourselves. Don't ask me why, but we have. I just think it was probably us just being slow to uptake and get all faculty trained, or we've had other priorities, to be honest. And so we've also transitioned from paper files to electronic files to us physically being on campus to physically, not. So I think, it certainly is time now, but you hit the nail right on the head that this system, NursingCAS, does all of our heavy lifting for application processing and then a lot of the maintenance as well. And my colleague Sandra, that's here, Rachel, not sure how well you know her, but she is like the
Oz. I've been introduced a couple of times.
I was like, she is the Oz behind the curtain. She's
that's awesome.
All of these applications that go out for our students, but also, has a very heavy hand in the internal audit that happens after the processing here with NursingCAS. So she, again, really is the expert in terms of our department and here at the college with all that happens with our application systems. So how students are applying to any program here at the con. But today's training really did give an overview of, where you're going to look for information. As you mentioned in the past, we provided kind of a PDF that existed in a lot of different places, but was a laundry list of, what to look for the student in review and preparation for the interview. At this point, something that's different here is that we now have work groups of typically where faculty, fall. So you, Rachel, in the caring science faculty, but to specifically be able to assign all applicants within who've identified, that they would like to pursue admission for that focal area into that work group, so that you, whether you are in the interview or not, have the ability to see that applicant and then add notes in preparation for the vote or in preparation for an interview, whatever it may be. You've had a chance to review all of the applicants in that work group that makes sense. And then I'd also mentioned to Kate that I'm certainly going to be going through and making sure that we look at things like the personal statement, where it should call out things like who the faculty are that they'd like to work with. So that, again, it's easier for us to know who might be interviewing them again, or who may want to review this file in preparation, and especially if that student, is outside of that focal area that you belong to. So that's one area, is that initial review and early, right? It has everything here that you'll be looking for. And then a place to leave comments, but also then when the interview takes place. So again, typically you will have seen the applicant file if you are interviewing, but then you've got a rating tool that is built into the system that you're able to, instead of that paper, that, hard copy paper that you were writing on or trying to, maintain electronically, that is built into the system. Sandra has presented it here, that you can just put your score in there and any notes, and then whether you recommend admission or not. This will tally up all of the students automatically and bring, a report, in essence, of all of the applicants to that final vote meeting that we have, or that we may have a couple of by focal area, where we do the review of the applicant, but we'll know how they already rank given the reviewers. And so that data will be able to be presented and just up there, like I said, while the review is taking place by the appropriate faculty who interviewed. So hopefully that kind of is a general overview of what's here, how to use the system a little bit. We've recorded this, so you certainly can go back as soon as you'd like and listen to this, or definitely, if your schedule allows, come to the next session that we'll have. I think we're planning for something later this month.
will we be sent our login and a website, or is it just that we can use our regular university login to get into the system?
No, it is separate from the university login. And I have set up an account for you as a brand new NursingCAS user. So there is an email notification that comes through. I was doing some testing with that because I wanted to see how long any like password links were available. And unfortunately, it's only 24 hours a live link. And I did set up your account, I want to say it was last week. So I can send another email to you that just is like an initial welcome email so that you can set up your own password. But I've used your university email address as your
which is the right one. Yeah, that Rachel.A.Johnson, because sometimes I go to I didn't get the email, which makes me wonder, is it in my junk?
It could be. It is coming from a do not reply email address. So sometimes they automatically go to junk, but I'm happy to have that resent. And then once your password has been set up, you should be able to utilize the system. And then based on the work group that you will be in and any assignments, you'll be able to see that information in the system. And so we moved forward and got into the actual application, but here is what the dashboard would look like. So once you're in there, any review assignments you have will be listed here, or you could always use the search assignment function here on the left-hand side and then find your name in the pull-down menu.
Oh, great.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
Yeah. And if you go through and watch the recording and you have any questions, I'm always available via email, via phone. And Kate, this is for you as well. If we need one-on-one, any type of one-on-one training, we can do that too.
Thank you so much, Sandra. That's great.
You're welcome.
Okay. Well, thank you all. I appreciate your time, your attention today. We will get out the link for recording and the accompanying documents that Sandra has created so that you're able to reference it as you're going through NursingCAS. Thanks again.
Thanks so much, China. Thanks, Sandra.
Thank you so much.